Why are so many dogs suffering from health issues? Actress Katherine Heigl, who's helped save over 16,000 dogs through her foundation, says she's seeing more issues with dogs' joints, odors, and health than ever before. And after doing a ton of research, she feels there's one place we can look to support any dog's health: their food. So she decided to create something she could actually feel good about feeding her dogs. It's called Superfood Complete. Superfood Complete is made with over 30 of the healthiest ingredients on the planet, including several superfoods vital to your dog's health. Badlands Ranch also sponsors the Jason Debus Heigl Foundation, which has helped rescue thousands of dogs and place them in loving homes. Dogs across America are trying this food and experiencing amazing health benefits. Go to badlandsranch.com/save50 and order right now to get up to 50% off your regular price order with a 90-day money-back guarantee. If you want your dog to experience all these incredible things, go to badlandsranch.com/save50 today.
Shop Plato's Closet tax-free August 2nd through 4th for back-to-school styles. We sell the trendy, gently used styles you need to make a difference in the world and in your wallet for back-to-school shopping. Save up to 70% off regular retail prices by choosing recycled styles. Save even more when you shop tax-free this weekend. Make a change that others can respect and repeat. Shop Plato's Closet in North Charleston and West Ashley this year for your back-to-school looks. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.
The following podcast may contain discussions supported by science that may be considered dangerous to some listeners and conspiracy theorists. Discretion is advised.
The Three Down Greencast is brought to you by Lucky Bastard Distillers, Saskatchewan's premier distillery, and by the Pile of Bones Brewing Company, brewed in the heart of Regina. Welcome to the Three Down Greencast. You are listening to the internet's only John's Living the Dream podcast.
Yes, I am.
I'm Joel Gasson with John Fraser as usual, as the week is here. The CFL regular season, I can't believe it. It feels like it snuck up on us again, is here. The regular season opens this week. We're recording on a Tuesday. The Riders don't play till Sunday, so a number of things could change between now and the time when they actually hit the field, but this is kind of what we're going with for now. We got a few things to talk about in this episode. We are, of course, going to talk about the last preseason game. A rare double victorious preseason for the Riders as they beat the Winnipeg Blue Bombers backups pretty handily. And
thank you for adding backups. Thank you very much, Joel. I appreciate that.
And looked pretty good in the process. But hey, win's a win. You can only beat who's in front of you, and they did it. We're going to talk a little bit about sort of how Trevor Harris looked, the quarterback situation, the running back situation, the offense as a whole, and of course we are going to look ahead to the regular season as well, as some lines are out, if you're the gambling type like I know John is, on win lines and that sort of thing. But an interesting piece of news made its way into my feed this week.
It did.
One that I believe excited the co-host of this average program. And that would be...
to midnight is how much it excited me.
Of course, be Mr. One, John Fraser, as I guess Apple has a new, I believe, VR type thing coming out. And Microsoft has decided that basically the Office suite, or at least most of it, including Excel, will be available on said product.
See, I'm very excited. If nobody knows or has listened to the other episodes, especially my fascination, the Excel World Championship. In my real job, I use Excel basically every single day quite a bit. So I've become a bit of an Excel nerd. I also use it for my fake job when I am on the internets talking about the Saskatchewan Rush. So
not this fake job. There's no Excel in this one.
No, there is. In fairness, I think you were surprised what I said to you when I went, hey, where'd the stats page go last year? And you're like, you have to request a login. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm actually doing stuff. But no, the ability to just sit there and like, I just picture myself with like, of course, they're big, silly, like VR looking goggles that I guess are probably like augmented reality. I'm guessing you could probably see stuff, but like, I feel like I need like the Nintendo Power Glove.
Yeah.
So I could like grab the cells and then like have my formulas built into the Power Glove pads on my arm and just boom, new credit app form, boom, new stats calculating form, boom, history of the Saskatchewan Rush, and just do that in the comfort and privacy of my own home. Most people would think, with the kind of excitement and heart rate I would have going on, that I was watching, in the corner. But no,
the ballet.
Am just the ballet. How have I never heard that one before?
I don't know. It's usually what is like the code for like the strip club, isn't it? So I just kind of applied it to a more modern setting.
Okay, I think it works. We're gonna roll with it. So I will not be watching the ballet. You'll just see my pure joy and excitement when I can auto sum from the anywhere I want wearing these goofy goggles. So if anybody wants to, again, we are not like other CFL podcasts. We will not ask you for money. But if you do want to buy me a $2,500 headset, I mean, I'm not going to say no.
That's how much they cost? I didn't even look into it.
I think it was $2,500.
My God.
Apple VR, Apple Vision Pro cost a $3,500 US.
Jeez Louise.
And yeah, they kind of look like I was out and we got a tiny little pool in the backyard this year. And they kind of look like the big goofy swimming goggles that Max was wearing. So I can't wait. That somebody like Kanye is just going to wear these every day.
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
They're just going to walk around. Yeah, no, $3,500. $34.99. So
goodness gracious.
Plus shipping, plus exchange, plus yeah. So I guess if somebody is going to give me $2,500, we're happy there, living on a prayer.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like a lot of money just to do spreadsheets in probably a less efficient fashion, I'm guessing.
Right, but it's like you can kind of see through it. So like, okay, my question: can people like see the reflection of what you're seeing? So if you are going to the ballet, are they going to be able to see like the reflection of what you got going on? Like,
I don't know for sure. Like, I'm pretty sure most of these VR things, like, they don't see it in the goggles, but there are ways to like connect it to television so people can watch what you're doing, I think.
Ugh. Does that mean they see my browser history?
I mean, you don't have to do that, but you can, I believe. So.
Fair. And I mean, in fairness, my browser history goes like obscure meme, football, the occasional trip to the ballet.
Mm-hmm.
The age we live in, the ballet right in your pockets.
Yeah. So that's not the only thing John is, of course, excited about this week.
No.
Football is finally returning, CFL football, of course. The action starts this week to the point where we even saw promotion for the CFL on CBS Sports Network on the PGA Tour this week, which was...
the dulcet tones of Jim Nantz. Mm-hmm. And a side note, whoever would have thought the PGA Tour would have sold out? That floored me this morning when I saw that. That's all I'm going to say about it. I don't want to get into it. We are barely a football podcast as it is, but like, holy shit, that floored me today.
Yeah, that was something.
But hearing Jim Nantz talk CFL,
even if he was like forced to do it, but that's fine.
But just hearing Jim Nantz say it, there's just something right in the world, like. Especially in that, like, calm, you're hungover on a Sunday watching golf voice that he has. Oh, it's magical.
Yep, Calgary, BC on Thursday to kick off the week, and should be an interesting week, an interesting season ahead in the CFL. But before we get into our sort of little season preview, John, for the Pile of Bones Brewing Company, what is in the glass this week?
I went with something I found interesting on the shelves, and I'm going to give you one guess, and if you guessed it right, I'll transfer you $5 right now.
Something you found interesting on the shelves.
Yes, for the beer tonight.
Pile of Bones Fruit Loop Sour.
Ah, there you go. Ding, ding, ding.
I only went with that because at work I turned an entire flat into singles for the front fridge, and they sold out in less than a day. So
yeah, actually, I got the 4-pack because now I've just learned with anything from Pile of Bones, just buy the 4-pack, you're going to like it. Mm-hmm. The Fruit Loop Sour, I know people were like, oh, is it going to taste like Fruit Loops? No, it's just like, it's hibiscus and orange and lime, and oh my God, it is summer in a can. Mm-hmm. It is really, really good. Very tart, obviously, but I like how the flavors, they all blend together, kind of like an old bowl of Fruit Loops would. And this might be in the, like, we're talking top 5 beer territory here, Gas.
It's got potential for sure. It's got a fun story too.
Okay, do you know the tale?
I do know the tale. So what happened? Yes, of course. So what happened was, one of the previous times they were making a batch of the hibiscus lime goza.
Yep.
The wrong juice was added to the tank, which was the orange juice.
Oh, okay.
And so they were like, uh-oh. And then they tried it and was like, oh, this is actually really good. So I think it stayed, the first time they did it, I think it stayed like sort of as a small batch thing only at the brewery. And then eventually this year, because it was so dang good when they tried it by mistake, they actually, brewed the thing for real.
And see, that makes sense, because I always found the hibiscus lime good, but not great. This orange takes it to, like, great. Like, this is a sitting in the sun, early morning on a golf course. Like, this is this is a summer beer. Like, I don't know if I could ever have it in the winter, because it would make me sad, because it would make me think of summer. But no, it was, I was going to try to do a live reaction while we were on air, but no, I think this might have found its way into my top 5 beers of all time after one. So, and of course, also because I don't work tomorrow, double fisting with some Lucky Bastard vodka and pink lemonade.
Fair enough. And I can tell you, with the Lucky Bastard Distillers, of course, there are other fine sponsors. 12 packs Lucky Bastard iced tea coming very soon. Very soon.
It is a great time to be a functioning alcoholic in the summer.
Yes, there may have been cases that were being made at the distillery today. So.
Ooh.
Yeah. For me, I grabbed a 4-pack over the weekend, and I have one left today of the Rebellion Golden Crush, just sort of a lighter version, basically, of the Double Hazy or the Hazy IPA. Sort of very, very citrusy, very hazy, very delicious, but easy drinking. I will admit, on Monday night, I mowed the lawn when Jenny was there at a photo shoot, and I had 2 beers in my fridge, and it was the Golden Crush, and there's a Blackbridge Milk Stout left. I was tempted to drink the Golden Crush, and then I was like, do I really want to drink Milk Stout tomorrow night for the podcast? I was like, well, no, not really. And I was like, well, then I don't really want to drink Milk Stout right now either. So I just settled on pulling out the Soda Stream and making some soda water with lemon, and that was good enough.
The thought of having a milk stout after mowing the lawn, like
in heat mornings where it's like 35 degrees,
just a nice stout in your mouth.
So I decided to go with the sparkling water and lemon juice instead, and save the Golden Crush for tonight, because I was like, I don't think I want the milk stout tomorrow night either. It's just too hot right now.
No, that would be, and I think too. I think our listeners would also think that maybe you were dead inside if you did that, because I'm not bashing the milk stout. I'm not a stout guy, but I've heard lots of great things. But yeah, just thinking of a stout in plus like 20 plus weather is.
Sometimes it's okay. Like if I'm inside all day and I haven't stepped outside all day and I'm just downstairs in like the nice air conditioned area, I could be like, I could probably drink this right now and be okay. But if I'm outside and it's a little warmer upstairs where I record than it is downstairs, so I mean that's just the way that goes.
That's fair. Now, before you have some sort of sexy transition, I need to grab my second Fruit Loop Sour.
Okay.
Hang on.
It's very compelling podcasting right now as we wait. Because John has, of course, moved his office all the way to the other side of his basement, so it takes longer for him to get a beer. So I am just trying to kind of talk through this right now because, frankly, I don't really want to edit it out later. I heard him get back to the desk. So
fantastic! I'm back. Yes.
All right. You didn't hear me narrate through that entire thing to make sure that I don't have to edit.
Oh no! I figured that's why I gave you the notice rather than just disappearing, because I'm like 100% you'll just say something and away we go. So
yes, I was explaining that because you moved your office to the other side of the basement, you have to like go all the way across to get a beer now, and now I was just filling time, so I didn't have to edit.
That's also fair. I also ran fast enough. I'm a little winded.
Fair enough.
That's no bueno.
Mm-hmm. What was bueno, of course, was the Riders win over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and their backups on Friday night.
Yes.
Friday night in Winnipeg. My biggest takeaway from the game was basically the state of the offense. Yes, of course, they didn't really play any of the Bombers' top guys, and you always have to take that into consideration. So I'm not. What I'm about to say doesn't mean I think they're necessarily fixed and that it's going to be, all gas for the offense this year, and it's going to be something that will be really good by the time we say the season is over. But you notice a difference in the offense this year compared to the last couple of years. It just feels professional.
Yes.
If you know what I mean. Like, I'm not going to say it's explosive. I'm not going to say it's going to be a top 3 offense in the league or anything like that just yet. But it is most definitely a professional offense.
It doesn't look like one of my favorite sayings, and I don't know if this is offside, and you can edit it if it is. One of my favorite sayings is, it's like a monkey trying to fuck a coconut. Where all the effort's there, it's just not happening, right? Coconut's rolling around, monkey's giving all the effort, and it just doesn't look good. The effort was there last year. We can't say that these guys didn't try.
No, we're not those people who are going to sit here and say that professional athletes gave up and stopped trying.
Right, so we're not the play-by-play voice of the team. That's not us. We know that these guys are I mean, if these guys can play through what they went through in the poop game, the flu game, these guys are giving it. We're not here to judge their effort, but you're right, it's efficient. And again, one of my favorite barometers is, of course, my workplace, right? We all have water cooler talk. So the number one comment that was made separately to me by 3 different people I work with was, we have a quarterback now. Mm-hmm. And again, my coworkers they're people that know football, that watch a lot of football, have a great conversation about football, right? And we all remark the same kind of things, that you watch Trevor Harris, who, thanks to Pro Football Focus, I didn't realize is basically the league's all-time most accurate passer.
Yeah.
So you've got a guy like that knows when to step up in the pocket, so rather than taking all this chaotic, trying to get that coconut energy, he's able to just channel that into being efficient, right? Trevor Harris knows where to go. Trevor Harris knows when to step up in the pocket, which is not something I think Cody Fajardo ever really did, right? No. Cody was heart and soul, wear his heart in his sleeve until you say something nasty about him, but he was the kind of guy that just, like, energy, it seemed like he wasted energy. And you're right, it was against the Bombers' backups. But even in the other preseason win, with basically all the pieces except for Harris there, it had a similar vibe, right? Like, we're not expecting them to set scoring records or light the world on fire, but it's just nice to see that it's not chaos with every single play. There seems to be a goal, and the other thing too, the other takeaway on top of the offense, and sorry if you were going to get to this in a moment, but did I read right? Because I don't have the stats up because, unprepared. Did I read your article right? They had 1 penalty.
Yes. Yeah, I believe so.
And it was like hold or procedure or something. Like, it wasn't like they had 1 UR that they seem to always
they're penalized once for 6 yards.
Like, that to me is is impressive.
Yep.
For this squad that has not been able to do that anytime under Craig Dickinson.
Yeah.
Or
so
under Jason Mills.
They're flagged once for 6 yards. They only gave up 3 sacks in the entire preseason. Another thing that was talked about a lot.
Right.
Last year, obviously, for obvious reasons. So, I mean, all the barometers hit in that game.
Yes.
I thought it was interesting and funny that Trevor Harris went 4 for 4 for 72 yards in one drive and then got yanked and was still the game's leading passer at halftime.
You texted me that, and because I was out mowing my lawn on, and that's not a euphemism. Like, that's that. Yeah. The ballet's the euphemism. The mowing the lawn's actually something that I've discussed how I like doing that on game days. But if all I could think of when you sent me that text that Harris was out after 72 yards in one drive was the last scene of Babe, where he looks and he goes, "It's good enough, pig. Mm-hmm. It's good enough."
Yeah, and one thing I do actually want to take from that and give Craig Dickinson some credit for, in his interview with John Liu at half, Harris did say he wanted to keep going.
Yes.
And he tried to plead with Craig Dickinson to keep going, and Dickinson said no. We've seen enough. Let's let these other guys play. And granted, this is a very small thing, and this is very much a thing that is very easy to say no to, putting your, no need to put that guy, your guy, back out in that situation in a preseason game to risk anything when you literally just saw everything you need to see from the guy in one drive.
Right.
So it's very easy to say no in this spot, but that was still, to me, at least a small moment of, okay, maybe Craig Dickinson has a little more command of the situation this year compared to last year.
Yes, I would absolutely agree that older Craig, or younger Craig, pardon me, would definitely probably have let him come out there, and I think that's what led to the discipline issues. But I mean, you and I talked about it, that we know Craig Dickinson has a very short leash these first 4 games.
Yes.
I mean, you've basically got his replacement in waiting on the staff, right, in Bolduc. He is ready to step in, and I think just having that more mature staff, and again, neither of us are Jason Moss guys. Neither of us were Jason Moss guys when they hired him. Everything seems more professional, right? It's gone a little less Cleveland Browns, it's a little less Belichick with the Browns, a little more Belichick with the Pats. Again, not saying that they're going to be the New England Patriots. Let's not get that hot take out there, but
No.
It's just the way the team has carried themselves from day one of camp through to now.
Yeah. So, I mean, none of this necessarily means that they are going to be, first in the West and that a Grey Cup is a slam dunk this year, but I believe they're going to be in a situation where they are competing that they should be in the mix this year, and that if something doesn't happen, it's because A, they just didn't have the horses, or B, something's gone horrifically wrong.
Injuries happen. I mean, too, you can lose your confidence. This team.
That's what I mean. Like, something stupid happens early that you can't predict, and it's like, well, fuck.
Right. And to me, they've got a real tough start to their schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, they're going to, this is not, you're not getting a fluff game. You're not seeing an Alouettes team that we all know is going to be bad. You're not seeing an Ottawa team that we hope is better, because we both love that coaching staff. You're seeing, Edmonton and Winnipeg in your first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're going to have to hit the ground running, and you're probably going to taste your own blood a little bit in one of those games.
Yeah. But at the same time, sometimes that's the start you need. Like, I think if you look at it, okay, you're going up against probably a hungry Edmonton team, the one that wants to end this streak at home.
Yes.
And then, of course, you're facing the 3-time West Division champions. So there's no tiptoeing into the season. You're not jumping into the shallow. You're not walking in the shallow end of the season, which sometimes can set you back because you're not ready and things go bad. But at the same time, this is not easy. So maybe that helps, because historically, we've seen the Riders as one of those teams that sometimes, messes the bed against poor teams, but comes to play against the big boys. And maybe not to say that Edmonton's a big boy, but there's circumstances surrounding that game are a little different. Maybe that's the start they need to kind of get their toes wet this year. I'm not expecting them to be 2-0 maybe, but they at least look like a competent team that you can believe in.
Well, absolutely, and we'll get into it more as we talk season preview, but I would respectfully disagree. I think Edmonton is a big boy this year.
I don't know if they're quite at that level yet, but I mean...
Compared to where the Riders were last year?
Maybe.
And again, it's hyperbole, but I don't want to say, I'm not coming out and saying, oh, it's must win against Edmonton, but it's must show up.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Like, if you get the doors blown off by a team that basically hasn't won at home since before... When was their last home win?
Before COVID.
Right. I'm just trying to remember if it was before 2 of my kids or just Maya. But, it's been that long since they've won at home. I've had at least 1, maybe 2 children. So, I do think but I'm with you. I think last year they started hot and got ahead of themselves and got overconfident. And then really went off the cliff.
To his credit, Craig Dickinson said he put a lot of emphasis on the hot start, thinking that mattered.
Right.
And based on what he said in his interview with Justin Dunk at the winter meetings, I believe it was, I get the feeling that Dickinson kind of learned some stuff from that last year.
Yes.
And he's come to the dark side, or at least what I would like to call it at this point, I guess, in, sort of process over results. And I think it's especially in the CFL, where it's a long 18-game season, 6 of 9 teams make the playoffs. You don't need to get on a ridiculous streak to start the season. It's about coming along and being good at the right time.
Yes. Well, and you're exactly right. You're only cutting 3 teams at the end of a playoff run, and you don't want to start
You can bury yourself early, but as long as you hang around, you always have a chance in this league.
Why are so many dogs suffering from health issues? Actress Katherine Heigl, who's helped save over 16,000 dogs through her foundation, says she's seeing more issues with dogs' joints, odors, and health than ever before. And after doing a ton of research, she feels there's one place we can look to support any dog's health: their food. So she decided to create something she could actually feel good about feeding her dogs. It's called Superfood Complete. Superfood Complete is made with over 30 of the healthiest ingredients on the planet, including several superfoods vital to your dog's health. Badlands Ranch also sponsors the Jason Debus Heigl Foundation, which has helped rescue thousands of dogs and place them in loving homes. Dogs across America are trying this food and experiencing amazing health benefits. Go to badlandsranch.com/save50 and order right now to get up to 50% off your regular price order with a 90-day money-back guarantee. If you want your dog to experience all these incredible things, go to badlandsranch.com/save50 today.
Right, but I mean, we've seen teams start 0-4, 0-5, make the playoffs, right? Like that's the thing with this league. Let's face it, the next 6 weeks, although it's games that mean something or past training camp, are still largely figuring it out. I mean, anybody that's sitting here criticizing the Riders for keeping 4 quarterbacks and stuff does not realize like in the CFL, unless you're one of about 20, maybe 30 guys on that roster, you're still auditioning for your job late into the season.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're a bona fide starter that they know that they're paying you, and even at that, those guys can be let go if they're underperforming. Mm-hmm. So it's you're exactly right, Joel. You have to be playing right at the right time, and whether or not that leads to you hosting a home playoff game or not, it's about figuring out the pieces and moving forward.
And it's interesting you brought up. So the 4 quarterbacks, there was a lot of conversation sort of what was going to happen behind Trevor Harris coming into last week's game and heading into this week's. And, I mean, other than, of course, Trevor Harris is the undisputed starter.
Yes.
And it appears, we'll see this week, I guess, but it appears that they have some kind of running short yardage package for Shea Patterson, because they clearly busted that out in that game. That was something that very clearly suggests that guy is going to be used and on the roster in some form or another.
Right.
But between Mason Fine and Jason and Jake Dolegala, we have no answers yet.
No.
Because they kept all of them. And on the outside, sure, it looks a little weird. Naturally, I assume they may have tried to put one of them on the practice roster. Obviously, at this point in both of their careers, whoever it was said no, which is fine. Their prerogative. But they weren't willing to cut them either at this point, which is also fine, because coming into this year still, the CFL requires every team to, for some reason, scratch one player from the depth chart before every game, which I don't understand in the it's not like a 65-man roster. This is a very small roster. There's no reason that you have to. It used to be 2 scratches, which is even dumber. Yeah. But the fact that they still have to scratch
2 scratches on a smaller roster too.
Yeah. So the fact that they still have to scratch one person is stupid. But anyway, so what the Riders have done is, okay, we're keeping all 4 quarterbacks, and by all accounts, it's going to make guessing who that scratch is going to be pretty easy, because it's probably going to be one of Mason Fine or Jake Dolegala.
Right.
And I don't hate it, to be completely honest with you. I think both guys have earned the chance to be professional quarterbacks this year. They both played, both played very well against BC. They were both pretty good against Winnipeg. And I think realistically, this is a league where we've seen rashes of injuries to quarterbacks in any given year.
Oh, yes.
So if something does happen to Trevor Harris and one of these 2 guys becomes your starting quarterback, you now know that you also have a somewhat competent backup behind them as well now, rather than trying to find some guy on the street to add to your roster.
Right, and everybody that they released, it's not like they released somebody that you go, oh my God, they let that guy go and kept 4 quarterbacks. there was no surprises. Like, it's not like it's not like you had a Corey Sheets that was tearing it up. It's not like you had a guy that you went, oh my God, they need to keep this guy.
To me, the weirdest cut was Keith Corbin III, and I was still like, he's the guy that I think has potential and could have stuck around on the roster, but there clearly wasn't room in their eyes. So I'm like, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you have one guy who had a decent preseason. So rather than that, you keep 4 guys at the most valuable position, I would argue, in professional sports outside of maybe NHL goalie. So, and you're right. Neither of them played themselves off the roster. They get to evaluate them in practice every day. And that quarterback room is going to have a little bit of friendly or non-friendly competition to it. Mm-hmm. Those guys want to play. Those guys want to show what they can do. They want to be professional. They want to show up. They want to be in meetings. They want to learn from Trevor Harris. And let's face it, at the end of the day, Trevor Harris is also 37 years old.
Yes.
Right? I know he's on the TB12 method. There we go with another Pats comparison. But he's one of these guys that looks like he could play a while, but he's also a guy that, let's say they have some success, or let's say he gets banged up with a concussion at the end of the year and says, you know what? I'm done. He could also do that, right? Like, and all of a sudden you're left holding the bag with one quarterback, not two. So I do like them bringing in the rushing package that teams have been using, because that is the one thing that Trevor Harris will not be doing.
Not regularly. And I think it does add a nice little wrinkle, and it's something I didn't really consider. Like, I think we all sort of talked about Shea Patterson in sort of a short yardage role, but I was also like, oh, like Mason Finer, Jake Delagala could do that too. But to bring in sort of the wrinkle every once in a while of Shea Patterson on a run play on a first down or something, as a quarterback who actually has the ability to throw the football a little bit every once in a while, is a fun little wrinkle for sure.
Well, and you look at, and let's face it, you should always emulate success.
Yeah.
What has Winnipeg done the last 3 years? Mm-hmm. They've had a quarterback with a run package. Now, again, disaster in the Grey Cup, but let's face it, that was the first time that it really happened. I mean, you had Chris Streveler, who found himself basically an NFL job off of that package, right? So it's a wrinkle that I think more teams are using and should be duplicating, right? If anything, just to give your quarterback a breather. You like you were saying, you mowed the lawn in plus 30. Try playing professional football in plus 30. Sometimes just saying, okay, hey, we're going to let the young kid go out and run his ass off for a few plays here, get us some yards, and then let you go back in. Have a drink of water, sit down, we're good, right? Like,
yep. And I think it's also an example of some things we've heard from Kelly Jeffrey in the offseason about building his offense around the players available to him, not necessarily making his players fit in his offense.
And not doing the Jason Moss, doing the thing that smart coaches do and looking at what they have and building around that.
Mm-hmm. Another, I guess, the sort of other topic of conversation off the cuts at the end, there's not too much to say here, was the fact that they didn't keep any of the running backs that they brought in.
Right.
There was no running backs on the practice roster, which I guess can seem weird, but I mean, they expect Jamal Morrow and Frankie Hickson to be good, then they should. And yes, odds are, because they are running backs and they take a lot of punishment, one or maybe both of them will get hurt at some point. But you know what? It's really not that hard to find running backs, and I bet all the guys that they cut will probably be pretty quickly on speed dial should something happen.
No, you're absolutely right on that. It is the American running back in the CFL is the most replacement level position you can find anywhere.
Yeah, I don't think something like that is really worth a practice roster spot. Like, I don't really think for either guy there's a lot to be gained, because okay, it's like, well, do you a favor and we'll just cut you. So your film's out there. A guy like BJ Emmons, for example, looked pretty good. Maybe he gets on somewhere else should something happen. And there isn't really a ton for him probably to learn at this point from what he needed out of his position. It's like, hey, you can go somewhere else, or if something happens here, you'll be our first call kind of thing.
Right, and realistically, the only time that they could really find themselves in trouble is, knock on wood, I know the power of my predictions and curses and words that come out of my mouth, is if Hickson and Morrow both went down for an extended period of time, basically in the same game.
Yeah,
so you got to think, if one goes down, you're going to put somebody on the 6th game. You're going to go out, get a body. They're going to work with the other starting running back and go from there. So again, knock on wood. And for the record, I do have an actual wood desk where I record, so it's not like this is like some cheap IKEA shit.
No. So of course the season does start on Sunday. The Riders are in Edmonton at Commonwealth taking on the Elks. And so, of course, we'd be foolish not to sort of talk a little bit about the season ahead. And I think sort of the best way to do this is through sort of some lines, some odds.
Yes.
I'm not necessarily a gambler. I know you are, John, but I think sort of the season win total is a good way to sort of gauge expectations of a team without actually, necessarily having to gamble, right?
Well, and it's not a complicated,
No.
like, I know people that if you want to get into sports gambling can be pretty intimidating. See, like plus 1,600, plus 800. These numbers don't make sense. It's pretty easy to go, are they going to win more than X games in a year? It's a pretty easy bet. It's a good entry level bet. And like you said, it's a good one that I always say the guys in Vegas know way more than I do. So, it's kind of a good.
I've heard from some CFL gamblers over the years that the lines aren't quite as razor as we should say, they say they are in like the NFL. Like the information that these sort of companies have isn't quite as strong in the CFL. So if you are an avid CFL follower, there's money to be made if you put it in the right spots.
Well, especially I know I did daily fantasy with DraftKings and stuff like that for a while. CFL was it was great. I made some dough off of that. Yeah, there's gray areas in my contracts with the National Lacrosse League. Sorry, that just got clarified. I can bet on anything except the NLL and PLL. That finally got clarified for me. So, all right, let's go deposit some money into the betting account.
So, you can go ahead to 3downnation.com. We sort of have a section along the top where you can click and check on CFL lines through a number of different books if that's sort of what you're into. The one thing I guess that we've kind of been talking about across the site, there's been a number of articles published from different teams, and they talked about it, I know, on the 3 Down Nation podcast with John Hodge and JC Abbott last week. Various win lines for teams. The Riders at DraftKings are set at 7.5 wins for the season is sort of the line. Of course, they had 6 wins last year. So to kind of roll back through and be completely honest with you, there was a time I wasn't entirely sure. I felt that the Riders were either going to probably win, say, 10 to 12 games and be very successful, or they were going to win like 4. So, I mean, that doesn't really help you if you're trying to consider where you think they're going to come on this line, because it's like, okay, they're either going to obliterate the line one way or the other. I just don't know which way it was going to be.
Yeah.
I've kind of come around a little bit now, and it's a little bit based not necessarily on the fact that they won in the preseason, just more so what I saw out of them in the preseason. And of course, to be taken with a grain of salt, because they pretty much played backups in both games. But I don't think 8 to 10 wins are the question for this team. And I think they could possibly be hosting the West Semi, but they could very well also be third in the West Semifinal. So in that scenario, yeah, that's probably about 8 to 10 wins, which to me puts them in the over.
No, I would agree. And if you do want to go local, playnow.com is where you head. They'll check your location based on where you log in, or if you're on your phone, you'll have to turn on your location services. So playnow.com, same thing, over 7.5 for regular season wins. I'm with you on that, Gas. Like preseason, say that 3 times fast. I'm with you. To me, it was a coin flip.
The pre-practice squad.
Right, exactly. But it's funny, your better odds right now are actually, like, your odds that pay better are at over 7.5. And again, small sample size, but I think that's going to be a pretty good value bet. Like, I think if you take that, you should be able to, make a couple bucks. I mean, I'm not saying, bet your life savings on it, but I know I'm currently in the process of making a deposit to my account. And, I'm going to throw that down on the, on the Riders on the over 7.5, because you and I were talking in our preamble.
Yeah.
And we'll get into our spicy season takes, but I think the Riders got better. I still think that they may have had the best off season out of any CFL team.
Yep.
And I don't see anybody else in the West getting better. I think you'll see growth out of Edmonton. I think Edmonton will be better, but to me, like, you're going from Nathan Rourke and several pieces in BC to no more Nathan Rourke. Vernon Adams looking like a hero one week and not like the other. Winnipeg, everybody's gotten a year older. They do have Sergio now, so that is obviously going to help, because that was the problem if you listen to this podcast. So those, like you said before we start recording, those wins got to come. They got to go someplace.
Yeah,
why not to an improved Rider team?
Yeah, I know I feel like there's a little bit more optimism about this team outside of Saskatchewan than there is in it currently, and I think I can understand that. Like, there's obviously a very sour taste still on the way things went last year. And when you bring back sort of the same regime that was in charge of that, sort of that debacle, it's difficult to get fully on board until you start to see it. And
Right.
so, like, I don't blame anyone for thinking they're going to be poor this year. Things very well could go sideways and they could be bad again. Like, there's no question about it. Nothing's guaranteed in this sport. But I am weirdly optimistic about their chances this year. I don't know if they're necessarily Grey Cup contenders, but I think they should be good enough to the point that they may save the jobs of Jeremy O'Day and Craig Dickinson.
Yes, certainly. And and we were talking about this in the preamble. It feels like, because last year I felt good about them too. And shit just went downhill so quickly that I almost don't want to say that they're going to be good.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that with the Fraser curse, nobody wants me to say that they're going to be good. But I see a home playoff game.
I think it's possible, yeah.
I mean, I think it's far more possible, today than obviously it was when, things came back. And you mentioned, the regime's the same, but is it just me, or does Craig Dickinson not seem like a more mature, complete coach now?
I think so. I think he's learned a lot from the last couple of years.
Yeah. So I think you've got your regime's the same, but Dickinson with a more mature approach. You've got Trevor Harris there. You've got distraction guys like Duke Williams are gone.
Mm-hmm.
Garrett Marino's gone. And it feels to me like this team is not going to put up with that shit this year.
Yeah.
Like if somebody does what Duke or Garrett did last year, they're going to be out the door. Like, here's your suitcases, find your own way home from wherever we're playing. So, I definitely go over, even though, I think it's the football gods that are making my phone it literally started flashing as it tried to deposit money into my Play Now account. Yeah, that's cursed. Okay, I'm gonna put my phone down now. So maybe it's the football gods telling me not to put money on the Riders over 7.5, but I would recommend you do that.
Yeah, because I think overall, expectations around this team will be fairly low. And there's one thing I've always believed that is tried and true in the CFL, and that's that you can always depend on one team to be better than expectations and one team to be much worse.
Yes.
And I think it's possible that the Riders could be that better than expected team. Edmonton's certainly in that category. Ottawa's probably in that category. In theory, Montreal's in that category, though I don't know if that one will really follow through.
No, I don't see that one working out.
No.
And again, I'm sure that we can make fun of this take when it, goes absolutely sideways. Mm-hmm. But I just don't see a situation where Montreal's good this year.
No, I think they'll be competitive. I think they'll be okay. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't make the playoffs.
Right. I think that's the one consensus team that people are going, okay, yeah, there's no real chance that, this is going to be a thing that happens. Right. Mm-hmm.
So John and I are both relatively high on the Riders this year.
Yeah.
And so the question is then, okay, if they're going to win, let's say 8 to 10, where does it come from? Obviously, Winnipeg is not going to win 15 games again, in all likelihood.
No.
Edmonton may pick up a few more, so there goes that.
I think it's more than a few.
Yeah.
I really and
well, they basically won all the road games last year, so they don't need to win that many at home to be a playoff team.
Right,
frankly.
win 2 at home, and all of a sudden you're a playoff team, right?
Yeah.
And I'm really high. And as listeners of this podcast are going to know, I'm really high on Taylor Cornelius.
Mm-hmm. I know you are.
I think he's 6'7", throws just an amazing low effort, but the velocity he gets, watch his throwing motion. He just flicks his wrist, and that thing's just a bullet coming out. And we all know that a first year of a Chris Jones team is a training camp.
Yeah.
And although he didn't make the splashes like he traditionally does in year 2 and get those big pieces, and maybe because he's got a reputation to be the scumbag now, but anybody that cuts Sergio is 100% in my scumbag category now, all of the other things aside, but I think Edmonton is the team that makes the jump.
Yeah.
Which, I think BC falls back. I think them trading Kabongo. When do you ever see a good team make a move like that basically 3 days before your season starts?
Well, not one filled with as much drama as that one has followed, yeah.
Right. And to let the he said bullshit come out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that, good teams don't let that happen. When they let go of a guy because of stuff in the room, it stays quiet. But to come out and basically say, he was a cancer, no, I was just challenging guys to work out, like, that's not a good look. That's not a team that's cohesive together. So to me, I've got BC falling off the map and falling out of the playoffs.
I think it's possible. I think they'll find a way in. I'm not convinced Edmonton's quite a playoff team yet. I don't think Jones has made quite the sort of year 2 build. I think they will definitely be competitive. They will be better. They will win more games. But unless there's a crossover, which I'm not convinced there will be this year, because I think the East has the potential to have 3 good teams, and plus, with fewer cross-division games, the records tend to even out a little bit in that regard. So you probably got to win like 8 or 9 games to get to a crossover spot, which seems unlikely. For me, I know they're fairly high in the 3 Down Nation Power rankings this week, and there's still a number of, like, pretty much everyone at the site still seems to believe in them to a degree, at least being a solid regular season team. That's the Calgary Stampeders.
Now I've been waiting for this, Tad. This is a good take from you.
For me, I'm not convinced they're two-dimensional enough on offense to actually be significantly good. They may end up being a team that, as like John Hodges said on the 3 Down Nation podcast, maybe they're still a solid regular season team. They finish second, third in the West. They win their obligatory 8 to 10 games, but they're not going much further than that. They haven't won a playoff game since 2018. Pro Football Focus has Jake Maier as the worst-ranked quarterback out of the 9 starters, the 9 projected starters right now.
And again, that's an organization, like, I get, like, I make jokes that Vegas knows more than we do. PFF absolutely knows more than we do. So to me, that was, you had been floating this idea to me before PFF came out, but yeah. I'm more in your corner now that PFF came out and said, yeah, we don't think that Jake Maier is going to be any good.
Yeah, so they cut Derek Dennis in cuts. I'm not a Jake Maier believer. I'm not convinced they could pass to win a game when they need to, and I think the rest of the league may think the same. Kadeem Carey may be the best running back in the league. They may have the best running back in the best running game in the league. But I'm not convinced in 2023 that's going to get you very far. And I could very well see a world where the Calgary Stampeders do not make the playoffs in 2023.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough to argue. Winnipeg is good. Mm-hmm. We know Winnipeg will be there. I think Edmonton will be in the mix. I think BC, even though I think they'll fall back, should be in the mix. But yeah, Calgary, and it feels
like the things are starting to align. Like, for a while there, like, I know Ryan Ballantyne's line is they don't rebuild, they reload. But at a certain point, you don't hit on all your Americans that come in, your new Americans, and at a certain point, the talent that you lose just does eventually catch up to you. And I feel like the slide is kind of here finally for them. I very well could be wrong, and it could be foolish of me to say this out loud, especially at this point in the year. But it just doesn't. I'm just not optimistic about the Calgary Stampeders this year.
Now watch the West Final be Calgary hosting BC.